Uh, Today, I wanted to discuss about this uh, Typhoid Mary, a unique case. Why I felt it was necessary at present is we are finding it very difficult to stay back at home because of coronavirus and the lockdown. But it is very important to understand the significance of it, and also this particular story of Mary Malone, who was also called as Typhoid Mary, is a very good example for people to follow medical advice even though they don't understand it. So always trust science, always trust your doctor's advice. So for that itself, this would be a very unique story that is relevant at this part of time. So this sort of pandemic diseases is not something new to human society or humanity. Even there was a Spanish flu where there was nearly 15 to 50 million people lost their life. Nearly one quarter of the world they lost. Human life was lost. One quarter of the world population was lost. After this, before this Spanish flu itself, there was one more case of typhoid. Typhoid is a disease which is caused by Salmonella typhi, a bacterium. And at the initial days, there was no vaccination for typhoid. And as a result of it, many used to die out of typhoid. And typhoid was a disease which rapidly spread among the poor people who were residing in the slums. So, this unique story of Mary Malone, who was later nicknamed as Typhoid Mary, is very interesting story. So if you study about that, at that part of time, when that is somewhere in the 1915 to 1920s, being a cook was a very privileged position. You were the main person who was controlling the others who were working under you. So Mary Malone had that distinct feature of being a head cook among the rich families. She was working, and whichever family she worked, there was a serial things that were happening. The recruiters or the people who had recruited her as a cook, they used to die, and she shifted to nearly within a span of 6 years, 7 families she shifted her work to, and this was going on. So death followed her wherever she got recruited. Her signature cooking dish was uh, ice cream that she used to prepare. So the peach ice cream, and that was a signature dish that she had. So many say that if that was not her signature dish, she would not have ended up into a trouble, which I'll be letting you know later. Now, Mary Malone, so she shifted her jobs. And one of the families who lost their family after having recruited Mary Malone, what they did was they recruited a researcher to find out the reason for the cause of death of the family members. And the person who was recruited, his name was Soper, George Soper. He found out that Mary Malone was the reason for the death of the family members. He was of the opinion that she was suffering from typhoid and without symptoms. And she was not affected by typhoid, but she was spreading typhoid. When he said that, and when he went into the kitchen and spoke to her, Mary Malone, about that, she chased him out with a fork. That is what she did. So later, it also became a huge issue. She was kept under isolation by the authorities. This happened in New York. So they kept her under isolation. Now, the next thing that happened was many of them felt sympathetic with Mary Malone, and they felt that since she doesn't have a symptom, it is wrongly she was accused of being a person who spread typhoid to others. So, at this part of time, what they did was um, so she also pursued a legal action for her confinement or isolation, that is quarantine in today's terms. So she pursued a legal action and she was freed from this. And one of the newspaper tycoon, Mr. Hurst, he took up her case. And when he took up this case, she not only, it was a double-edged sword for Mary Malone, she not only got the required attention and money for fighting her legal cases, but also she was nicknamed as Typhoid Mary, and that was also later it followed her. So after this incident, Under legal action, she was freed from the uh, isolation wards and she started doing lower type of jobs. But she was not happy with that, and again she got back into cooking jobs and she changed her names. So assumed names were many and she started working, and again death followed her, and many of the members who had recruited her as a cook, so they started dying. And she also worked in kitchens of hospital, so you can imagine how many people were affected by her. So finally the authorities followed her, and this time they were not sympathetic with her, and they realized that she is spreading the disease and she was suffering from typhoid without symptoms. Today we call it as asymptomatic uh, reason. Even corona has that sort of asymptomatic patients are there. Similar to this, it happened with her at that part of time. And as a result of that, she was confined, and now she was put into confinement for 23 years under confinement. So the authorities put her, and this time no one was sympathetic with her, and they felt that she required this. So Typhoid Mary died in this confinement after 23 years of isolation and confinement. And this example, why we require at present is we should understand that the medical advice is very important, whether we understand it or not. The scientific knowledge at present is very important. So, in order to protect ourselves, so at this part of time, the medical advice obtained has to be given high priority. And if they have said that prevention is better than cure and lockdown is better, so we have to follow all these rules of the lockdown and see to it that we expose very little for this pandemic disease caused by corona. So that's the reason I shared this story, a unique story of Mary Malone, who was also called as Typhoid Mary, a historically recorded event. So thank you for watching this video. If you have liked this video, share and subscribe for this channel. Share it with your friends too. And I hope that all of us follow the advice of our medical professionals and we remain safe at home. Stay home and remain safe. Thank you.